So, Mr. Avi, this
Mr.
is going to be
Obvious.
your first
Yes.
official hot topic. So, Avi, is this the truth, lie, shenanigans?
It's a truth.
Truth.
One of my favorite punching bags is Dan Snyder, and as we all aware, that he has pretty much destroyed the Washington football team over time. But more importantly, he has always claimed that the name has always been respectful and honoring Native Americans. And finally, due to not because people weren't buying tickets, but because sponsorship money was going away, he's decided to change the name. But from my perspective, is that even though he has changed the name, it's not as if he's done it with an open mind, with understanding. It's more as a petulant teenager being told to take the trash out, and acting very much in a old rich white guy who can do whatever he wants mentality. And now that somebody's threatening it, it's he just won't even admit that what he's done is wrong, or he was wrong before rather, and that this should have been done earlier. Even the worst PR sports league in this country, in NFL, even they are trying to rectify this whole issue, especially around Black Lives Matter.
And just to
So I
clarify,
think
so
my
Dan Snyder is the owner of the Washington football team, which was previously named what?
We don't say
the
that
Red
here.
Tails.
We don't say that here.
I tried. Go ahead. I want to give Avi's $10 on the board.
Oh,
Go ahead.
What's your
we're
question?
going to talk
What's your
after
question,
this.
Avi? What's your question?
My question is: should he be forced to actually just sell the team because he's an idiot?
Forced to sell the team?
Because this is, or should he just be like brought back to high school and somebody teaches him, the basics of common decency or the basics of common sense? Or what's really worse is that he used to run a communications company. That's how he made his millions. And everything he's done since owning the team has been just poor PR from the get-go. The way I
Avi,
describe him is he's the worst fantasy football owner I've ever seen.
you're fortunate and you have a sports journalist and a sports fanatic to neither one of those are me to help you through this.
Oh, my bad. So, sports journalist this side,
So
or which?
why don't we start with East, the fanatic, and then we'll go to the sports journalist.
Well, to answer your question, if every idiot owner was forced to sell the team because they were acting like an idiot, it would be a high turnover in all the sports.
That's very true.
Especially this guy. This guy has turned off a once passionate fan base. He really did it in the first 5, maybe 10, 5, definitely within the first 10 years of his ownership. Um, it's unfortunate that he didn't change the name because it was offensive. He changed it because FedEx, Pepsi,
Yep,
Nike
exactly.
said, "We're not dealing with you." Like they said, "We're not messing with you anymore over this name." So, and he's still, like you said, Avi, being a petulant little child about the name. And it's this is something that should have been celebrated. This name change could have been celebrated. It could have
That's a good
brought
point.
it could have brought positive attention to the franchise that's had so many negative, uh, uh, so much negative media over the last basically his whole tenure. This could have been the one positive thing that Dan Snyder could have ushered
He could have
into
embraced it.
the
Yep.
spotlight, and he still, obviously said it. He flubbed it up. He just can't. He can't get right.
Yeah. All right. Lizzie, your thoughts?
Um, so I wholeheartedly 100% agree with each perspective. You can, use this. There's another controversy that's happening right now in the WNBA. with the one of the co-owners of the Atlanta team, the Atlanta Dream, and she has come out, and her name is Kelly Loeffler, and she has come out and made some horrible comments about Black Lives Matter, about how she doesn't care, how she thinks that they are a terrorist group,
Senator,
and so
Senator
Senator, yep,
Loeffler.
exactly what I was going to
Senator,
say.
sorry, but also co-owner of the Atlanta Dream,
Yep.
and she's not in any jeopardy at this moment of losing her ownership of the team. And surprisingly, the WNBA has been very slow to respond to her. The NBA, they don't care about the ladies. They just doing their own thing. They trying to focus on the bubble. But you look in the past, I mean, we've had, Rod Serling, the former owner of the Clippers, who was a racist in the NBA, owning that team for decades. It's not like people didn't know who he was and what his platform was about. It was because his nonsense blew up on social media that he kind of got exposed, and it pointed the finger at him and then again at the NBA. So no, I don't think Dan Snyder should be forced more than anybody else should be forced to sell the team. What I do think, however, is that we need to have some serious conversations about these owners and what their ultimate goal is, because it's not just Dan Snyder. If you look at the conversations that the owners were
Yes.
having about Colin Kaepernick since 2016, about the influence that President Trump had on these owners, about Colin Kaepernick, how they testified that in his collusion trial, his collusion case, how they testified that Donald Trump influenced their decisions. Maybe we need to start having a bigger conversation about, okay, well, what is your ultimate goal with the team? Are you for the team or are you for your players? And then just one last thing, and then we need to remember, like, all of these owners, their end goal is money.
Yep.
Their end goal is money. And so that's why we saw Dan Snyder all of a sudden, be like, okay, I got to get in line. No one had challenged his dollars before. Yeah, I'm happy that, FedEx finally stood up and Nike finally stood up and Walmart and Target and whatever. But where have you guys been? This is not a new issue. This did not just come about in the past 30 days with the George Floyd protests. These issues have been on the docket for decades about changing the name, the racist name of this team. And so I would call them out too. Like, okay, you guys are doing this for PR. You're not doing it because you feel some affinity with Black folks and you feel bad. You're doing it because it's affecting your brand.
Yeah. Fortunately, I don't have much time to get my comments in, so that's
Sure you
good.
do. Dance after
It's
Gingy.
Go for it.
We don't have to go for it. We don't have to. No, I'm just kidding. No, as most of you guys know, I haven't been a fan of changing the name until recently, obviously. Yeah, because the name, I personally feel that over time, words meanings can change, and you know, I don't know when the last time the name was used as an actual slur. Contrary to the actual N-word being used as an actual slur towards other people. So of course the meaning persists, but I understand the historical meaning of the word, and of course I get that it's time, given where we are in society now. I just think it's time. I mean, it's probably been time, and I've been willing to change the name for a while in my head. I just was going to disagree with you guys as long as I could.
You were just going to argue just because.
There were a few times I was just arguing just because. Yeah.
Contrarian.
with with that being said, let me point out some comments online because there were some good ones I saw. Rob B's online.
Neo, what's the N word you were talking about? I didn't understand.
Oh, I'll never use that word. I don't use that. I don't use that in my
What's the
everyday
R
life.
word? What's the R word?
I can't say that either. So,
No,
only because I'm not paying my $10.
no cussing.
All right. So Bob B's on. He said he had an opportunity to make the name change with the decorum years ago. It took financial pressure to implement the change. Jam is on. He says
Hey, Jam!
it's been an opportunity just sitting there anytime he wanted the DMV behind him. Jeanette says narcissists flock together. Von Perry, you know how to force him to sell, right? He says, stop buying tickets in Washington merchandise.
Ooh, in your face.
All right.
But
And
but
Von
the
Perry
thing
called
is
me
that
out. He said, Neil, how many Native Americans do you know, though? There's a reason for that genocide, and Redskins had a lot to do with that. Very good point, Vaughn. Thank you.
Can I just say something also too, as it relates to some of the outrage in DC? But because not everybody is on the same page in DC about whether or not the name should be changed. However, this is not our first sports team to have a name change.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see all of this outrage when the Bullets changed their name to the Wizards back in the 90s,
Which is
and
a
they had a
crappy
very
name. But
they had a very valid reason for.
yeah,
I mean, DC used to be the
the
murder
murder
capital of
capital.
the world,
Hmm.
and Abe Poland was like, I don't want to celebrate that, so let's change the name. And so I'm just like, okay, you guys are acting like it's the end of the world as we know it. We no longer refer to people like, oh, I'm always going to call them the offensive name. No, you'll get over it because no one refers to the basketball team now as the Bullets. They're the Wizards or the Whiz Kids. Like we have embraced it, we have accepted it. And so change means that you have to, progress and move forward within yourself. And so, let's honor the Native Americans and not be just like, okay, you are a redskin.
Yeah. And then last one,
that's
Daria
$10,
Winter
right?
said, but we the
No.
people kept buying Redskin tickets, as you say, the team with its name.
That's another $10 right there.
So gotta
You're
stop
supposed
buying
to be my
tickets
friend.
and change the
You're
culture.
supposed to be my friend.
That's yo. Both of y'all said the R word. That's $10
You're supposed to
each.
be my friend.
I was quoting.
I just
Nope.
Oh, that
Liz,
doesn't.
Liz
No,
made
no,
it
no, no.
very clear. She made it very clear that we are not counting quotes. I was quoting online.
Jam. I need Jam to come in and make a ruling here.
Oh, that's a Liz E ruling. Sorry. Otherwise, Liz E, she already hit her $100 mark.
Whatever. He cheats so badly. It's
Challenge one.
If
not
that's the
even
case, she already hit it like a few times.
I appreciate now that she's on the show because at least she, as another young lady, she understands how like they come for me. They come for me.
Whatever. All right. So let's move on to the next topic.